Welcome to a special edition of the Leaders of Our Industry interviews. Today we have Phil Goff, who is the Mayor of Auckland City. Thanks for having us today, Phil.
James, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, no worries. So Phil, is there anything you would like to say to the land development voters out there?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to be in development. I look at the latest building consent figures through. We've just hit an all-time record for Auckland, 13,881. How's that for being precise? And a whole lot happening in the commercial sphere. In fact, when we looked at what was happening in the commercial sphere over a number of years, there's something like $73 billion worth of work. And you just got to look around the city here and you see 98 cranes on the horizon. Now, I'll tell you the truth, I haven't counted them personally, but that came from the Crane Index report. And they said we've got more cranes in our city than in any single city in the United States.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, Auckland is booming. We're growing by 40,000 people a year. It puts some pressure on. But hey, I sat down with a group of mayors that were from all parts of the world the other day, and a couple of us were saying we've got these challenges with growth. And three others, including the Mayor of Kobe, said, let me tell you about the problems when you don't have growth. So I know which problem I'd rather have.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. All right, Phil. So there is far too much property that is unserviced, and this is limiting the ability for private developers just to get in there and develop. All the easy ones go, and all the hard ones with no drainage just stick around. So, I mean, personally, I see this as a problem that will just get worse over time. So the question is, what can be done about central or local government stepping in for the infrastructure provisioning of brownfields projects?
Okay, well look, the first problem was less one of infrastructure than zoning, and the unitary plan has made a massive difference. We've enabled something like 1 million sites for homes across Auckland, and from our chief economist's report, that's actually lowered the cost of land for first home buyers. And we've seen, you know, while prices are still going up elsewhere in New Zealand, our prices have stabilised and come back a bit, and they needed to because they were unaffordable. But zoned land by itself doesn't allow you to build houses. You need the infrastructure. And here's the challenge that Auckland has. With the rate of growth that we're getting, we can borrow. You borrow to pay for infrastructure because it's intergenerational. We are close to the limits in terms of our debt to revenue ratio, which Standard & Poor's sets at 265%, or that's our level. They're at 270. And, you know, we've got the second highest credit rating in the country. We don't want to lose that. We don't want to pay more for our money. So we've got to find new and innovative ways of funding infrastructure. Now, I'm keen on government doing more, and I negotiated out of government with the Auckland Transport Alignment Project for transport projects, $18 billion over 10 years. We're putting in 10, they're putting in 18. So it wasn't I don't want to say this too widely and let the government hear it. It wasn't a bad deal. And that means that we, you know, because transport is the biggest infrastructure cost we've got. And it is a challenge. You look out Drury, where we want to put in 23,000 extra houses, and we know that one rail line, which is not electrified, isn't going to be good enough. We need to electrify it. We need a third and a fourth main trunk line that's going in, and government needs to come to the party on that. But we're also looking at innovative ways of doing it. Now, we sat down with Fulton Hogan with their Milldale development. They said, look, it'll be 20 years before we can get to this. What about if we work through a special purpose vehicle where the debt doesn't go on council books and doesn't affect our debt to revenue ratio, but it's paid for by the people that can get into their homes earlier because the development's happening earlier. That's an extra 5,500 houses. We've done the deal with them. They're really happy with it, and it's working well.
That's great.
And now government is looking to legislate to enable more use of a special purpose vehicle where you then have an encumbrance on your property. So somebody's got to pay for it, but the person who buys the property maybe pays an extra $600 to $1,000 a year over a 30-year period, but it enables that development to come forward, and therefore it drops the price of the land. So, you know, I think we've got to think in innovative ways. That's one of the ways that we can help.
Oh, that sounds great, mate. So currently, the 224C takes more like 3 to 6 months, which is double what it used to be. This is when, I guess, when the developer is holding the most debt on a project. So would you consider this acceptable?
Not if it was at that level, but I've checked your figures. Now, it won't surprise you to know that our consenting people have come out with a different set of figures. They say the medium time under 224 is actually 32 days, the median time. That means half are quicker and half are slower. they say that one of the real problems that they've got, this is to ensure that developer has met the compliance requirements, is that the application is often put in before those obligations have been met. So that is going to slow it down.
Yeah.
So there's things that the developers can do, and maybe we've got to have a better educative process working with the developers, but I don't doubt that there are things that we can do as well. Now, here's one of our problems. You employ a lot of planners. How many did you actually swipe off council when you set your business up? We are running probably 30 to 40 planners under the limit that we want to be at. Yep. And we're competing with you in the private sector, and damn it, you pay people a whole lot more, and so does the central government. So we're fighting against that. Okay. Building consents are focused on that, and we're doing better. We're now doing 82% within 20 working days, and that's up from a rolling average of 72% last year. Resource consents are still taking longer. Yep. They're taking longer because the unitary plan is more complex and it's more discretionary. And you create discretion, you create more room for discussion and debate, and they're taking longer. But I've said to the Chief Executive, that's not good enough. And he has undertaken, by the end of the current financial year, they will try to get that figure up to more closer to 85 to 90%. But I'm interested in your concern about 224 applications. Yep. You give us a couple of case studies, okay, and I'll take them to the council and say, give me an explanation, and we'll come back and see where the truth lies.
Good man, I will do.
Okay, that's an invitation.
That sounds good. All right, so tell me, if elected, can you help the Auckland Blues possibly with a new waterfront stadium?
Hey, I tell you what's going to be more important than the waterfront stadium. It's a guy called Bowden Barrett, International Rugby Player of the Year, 2 years running. Yeah. What have we, I remember the golden days when the Auckland Blues, were on the top, and you probably have to be a little bit older to remember that. It hasn't happened for a while.
No, I do remember that.
But look, we were short of a really strong first five. Yep. I think Bowden's the man, and I'm an eternal optimist about the Blues and the Warriors. Actually,
oh, nice.
I keep thinking we can do better. They've got the potential. They've just got to realise it. Yep. I think we will do better, and we have to. God damn it, we're 35% of the country's population. If we can't thrash those other teams, what's wrong with Auckland?
Exactly, percentages.
Yeah.
That's it.
But the stadium, that's just going to have to wait. I'm putting the emphasis on roading, on transport networks, on housing infrastructure and environment. Would I love to see a stadium in the central business district? Of course I would. That's where the action will happen. Yep. But that's probably, to be honest, it's 10 to 15 years off.
Excellent. Okay, there you have it. Phil Goff leading the way in Auckland City. Thank you.